Have you ever wanted to be a child? Well, childhood is a great time that we all have. Like watching several Garfield movies, watching a Care Bear movie, going to Disneyland, and meeting friends at school. But there is also one particular thing about when it comes to childhood. So, imagine yourself being a kid, and if you go on some websites like YouTube, then you may encounter this. Welcome to childhood drama. A satisfying topic which relies on childhood days if you something that you had encountered when you're a smaller kid. And seeing all these terrifying things and had accidentally stumbled upon something that wasn't seen to be age appropriate for you. Well, today we'll be counting the top 7 movies and shows that traumatizes us as kids. So if you like the channel, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to notify me when we upload new videos. And we're ready to do the countdown. Ready to be spooked. Number 7, A Christmas Carol. Well, Disney already had a lot of Christmas Carol movies, like Mickey's Christmas Carol, and heck, even Muppets Christmas Carol too. But when I get to the original, holy crap, this movie is so creepy. Well, since that the Mickey and the Muppets remain family friendly, but if they made a new one, this one, probably not new, probably kind of, this movie's kind of old. Well, for this one, it's kind of dark and scary. Scary parts like the Ghost of Christmas Blast and this scene right there, which kind of reminds me of the Grim Reaper from the Simpsons. Since I may do a review of this episode, probably like in the future on my channel. So when I get to review the episode, then I'll get back to talk about this one in here. Well, the movie was also based off a book by Charles Dickens, and even this book is probably in the public domain, so that's why you see many of the Christmas Carol movies all the time. So, and pretty soon I'll probably create like a public domain part 5, probably later on. Number 6, Mickey Mouse Runaway Brain. Well, I actually had never seen this, but I think it's probably pretty terrifying. It all started off pretty normal, where he gets a mail, and Minnie wanted to come over, but he just doesn't want to. So eventually, he gets to play a lot of games, which kind of thinks of like a Billy and Mandy episode where his vision got bad. And then he goes into the laboratory and he met with a Frankenstein monster, so he can try to scan out his brain to make him a lot more even creepier. And you know what happens after his brain got scanned? He turns to be this. And he starts being completely crazy all the time. And then Minnie is trying to stop him from causing havoc. But he decided to defeat the Frankenstein monster by giving his brain back. So he'll be a lot more better and not so crazy at all. So, but the concept of having a brain to be scanned, becoming crazy, is like a scariest ideas I ever come across. But as we know that this movie is completely scary for kids. Number 5, Graveyard Shift from SpongeBob. This episode doesn't really scare me that much, but I don't think it isn't scary. I love this episode. It begins where Krabs said that the Krusty Krab will be open forever, and they try to do it at night, and they will have to stay up all night to do all the chores and all the work in the Krusty Krab. Later at night, Squidward tells a story about the hash-slinging slasher, and he was also a good fry cook like SpongeBob, but he accidentally cut his hand on purpose. But soon, longer enough, a hash-slinging slasher first revealed. And the truth is that he's not real at all. He was just a bus kid dropping off at the beginning bottom. And he actually said who was actually flickered the lights and revealed to be Nosferatu. Nosferatu. Sorry for the accidental spelling. But this episode is a Halloween treat, so probably maybe next time I'll probably do a cartoon review on this episode. Number 4. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Well, I do not really find this film scary, and there are hardly any scary moments for a little bit in the beginning, but that's not even true though, that this film had several scary moments, like the scene with all the clown nurses and the clown doctors. Yeah, that kind of scared a lot of kids. And one of the scenes that actually kind of scares them is the scene with the old lady. This got to be as one of the most frightening scenes in children's history. And it begins with Pee-wee waving a hand in front of a tow truck. No, not a tow truck. I'm not talking about maid or anything. I was just talking about the big truck that in the movie. And then he goes in there with this old lady. He start telling a strange story. And then later, after the story goes, we see this phrase. And this is probably not a punchline at all. This is more like a jump scare on YouTube. So, if you want to see this scene by yourself, well, you had to click the link below. Number 3. 3D Christmas Movie. Well, I already had covered a Christmas movie already, like A Christmas Carol already. Well, for this one, it is more graphic this time. This is a movie that scarred a lot of kids when they first accidentally saw it, and when the parents were watching it, and I was one of those kids too. So, and I had seen the clip as well, and I don't really know. And it was forgotten a long time ago until I finally found the clip, which shows the claymation footage. So, and it also had a gore element, which reminds me of the show, which I'll be covering for very soon. The claymation footage that was used kind of looks more like Nightmare Before Christmas, except a lot scarier and a lot more graphic than the original film. And plus, even though since this film was rated R, so do not really watch this when you're very young. Otherwise, you'll end up having the same fate as me. And the claymation element from the movie was created by the same company, Laika, which you know as the company that also made Coraline. So, if you wanted to freak yourself out even more, well, there you go. You should really watch this movie for sure. Number 2, Return to Oz. Well, first of all, you may wonder that this movie kind of sounds more like a family-friendly sequel to Wizard of Oz, but this is not a sequel that you actually wanted. You see, this film was infested with scarier scenes. Like the Gnome King scene, a witch with a removable head, the reelers, and the shock therapy scene. I will have to decide that the shock therapy scene is already terrifying, mostly because that the machine has like a phase, which kind of makes it kind of creepy. And the scene with the wheelers kind of terrified so many children. And what makes this movie terrifying is the scene with the Gnome King transforming into like a big behemoth. Well, definitely, this is a classic movie, so you should probably check it out, this movie on Disney Plus. And now it's time for the horrible moments. Toy Story 3. When you first saw Toy Story 3, you may also think this is going to look like a family film. But as you see the whole film, scary things will appear, such as like the monkey scene and the scene with the little kids beating up the toys. What the heck is this film for? So, probably I'm not going to add this into my DVD collection, since I will probably like number 1, 2, 4, or maybe in the future film of Toy Story 5. And finally, number 1, we have HTF. Well, this is a show that a lot of parents had talked about this before, since there are actually a lot of kids that had watched this and been traumatized by that show. Although this show was created way in the same year as SpongeBob. So since we already did talked about it with Graveyard Shift, which we already done with that list. So and this one is like a pretty gory one, I expect. Like as you can see, it looks like it in the first of all, it may look like a kids show, some sort of like a kids show, but out of nowhere it turns into like an R-rated gore fest at every episode, featuring blood, gore, and mutilations and horrific deaths. So, and if you're a fan of the series, you may get to check it out, the series, by yourself. So there you have it, folks. All the movies and shows that had traumatized us as kids. So, which show do you think that scares you the most? Or, what is your favorite movie and show that scares you as a kid? Leave the comments below. And don't forget, I will see you guys next time.